The backlash against data centers is just getting started, but this isn't the first time we faced this problem. 200 years ago, during the birth of the Industrial Revolution, a new type of technology began transforming the world. It also promised prosperity, progress, and national greatness. It also minted ultra-rich tech titans. It also created enormous social disruption. This technology was the factory. Today, a similar transformation is happening again, only this time, the ominous dark buildings aren't filled with spinning machines, but servers. What parallels are there from 200 years ago that can help us understand what we are facing today? The factories arrived fast. The dark, ominous buildings spreading across the Midlands like mushrooms after a spring rain. At the time, society and its laws couldn't keep up. Despite government commissions, abuse was widespread and common. To cut costs, factory bosses shipped children directly from orphanages, some as young as 6 years old. The factory work was very dangerous, and children were often injured or mutilated, losing fingers or worse. Shifts were as long as 14 hours, and factory hands were worked nearly every single day of the year, besides Christmas and 1 or 2 other holidays. Meanwhile, the government of the time refused to do anything about it, and instead helped the factories spread. When communities rioted and attacked the factories, the government sent soldiers to guard the factories. Legislation such as the Frame Breaking Act was drafted that made destroying factory machinery a crime punishable by death. Unions were made illegal. The government refused to stop the rapid spread and instead helped the factory owners, viewing the factories as the pillars of the nation, or critical infrastructure if said today. The Trump administration is doing all it can to pave the way for the construction of data centers. In Winning the Race, Trump's AI action plan, he frequently stresses the importance of AI in national greatness and security, and calls for regulations like environmental ones to be loosened. Similar to the factories, big tech, in conjunction with big capital and the government, is moving as fast as it can to get data centers on the ground before communities and regulations catch up. They are mainly targeting poor, rural, and even Native American land, promising jobs and tax revenues. At the birth of the Industrial Revolution, a few businessmen, perhaps the first tech titans, got extremely rich. Richard Arkwright was the Bezos of his day. Hiring mainly poor children to save costs, he became nearly as rich as the monarchy. Those that had enough money to buy spinning machines and start a factory got very wealthy, stealing the jobs and the livelihood from the vast majority of cloth workers who had trained for years. They suddenly found themselves without a job and without a way to support their families, creating massive social disruption, turning life upside down for communities that had lived the same way for centuries. Beyond the human cost, the factories covered the land in black soot, creating massive pollution and noise. The tech titans of today are also gaining massive wealth from AI and data centers due to their soaring stocks. Capital is flowing to data centers and AI at a record-breaking rate, pouring $130.65 billion into AI and data centers in the first quarter. And these gains are being further financialized, enriching Wall Street regardless of whether the tech is profitable yet. The tech giants that dominate the economy, known as the Magnificent Seven, are fighting to be the first that creates AGI, a technology with the potential to replace the vast majority of human labor, with unknown consequences for the rest of us, but guaranteed enormous profit for a tiny few. Meanwhile, like the factories, the costs of this race are being borne by the community at large. private deals are being made between data centers and electricity providers for cheap power, while the community covers the expansion of the grid. Electricity rate hikes, power grid stress, water usage, and noise pollution are all serious issues that have been talked about on YouTube and elsewhere that will affect us all if nothing is done. Factories were viewed by the Regency government as tools of national greatness. A big reason that the government supported the build-out of factories was the government's lack of funds to fight the war with France. Trade sanctions against France and the US also meant an increased demand to open up new markets and dump cheap finished products. Factories were viewed as critical infrastructure that were to power the economy of the nation and were to be protected and supported no matter the cost to local communities. As mentioned before, Trump explicitly mentions the importance of AI and data centers to national security and greatness. AI and data centers have deep ties with national defense and warfare, with the Department of Defense holding the vast majority of AI contracts, the closest runners-up being minuscule by comparison. AI and data centers are frequently mentioned as playing a role in competition with other powers, specifically China. The government, in the name of national greatness and defense, clearly wants to use AI and data centers to further their own ends. Some of those cloth workers who lost their livelihoods saw no other recourse but to take up hammers and smash the machines, not because they hated technology per se, but because of the way technology was being rolled out against their will, destroying their communities and their jobs and leaving them with nothing to feed their families. These were the luddites. Yet, the word luddite morphed into an insult, someone that is irrationally against progress and the future. The luddites, who only had one recorded killing, were viewed as terrorists by the government. Many were jailed and hanged. Today, critics of AI and data centers are viewed by some as luddites, ignorant and irrationally afraid of the future. Yet, according to many polls, it is the majority, especially in America, who are wary of AI and data centers. I doubt that all of them hate all forms of AI, for example, word prediction algorithms or cancer detectors. They simply want to determine the direction of society and not be directed by a tiny few. They want to decide how and when AI is used, or if at all. It is they that are rational and not the tech titans. There are places where the analogy between data centers and factories breaks down. Unlike the factories, data centers employ very few and not in dangerous conditions. Factories were not nearly as opaque as data centers. They were full of spinning machines, churning out fabrics that eventually were used to create specific goods, like cheap clothes. They were clearly making money. Data centers are black boxes, literally and figuratively. Due to NDAs and agreements between the companies who build them and those that rent them, we generally have no idea what goes on inside them, what is computed. We also don't know what kind of profit they are actually going to make. Factories eventually helped create the service sector. Some might say they benefited the world. I might disagree that selling clothes at Target is inherently better than making them, but hindsight does tell us that they helped create more jobs, for better or worse. As much as the tech titans tell us that data centers and AI will benefit humanity, we simply don't know. We don't know what will happen if an AGI is created that can replace most human labor. I think this will be an event horizon for humanity. Some may disagree. The question is, what will we learn from history that will help us going forward in this current backlash against data centers? Many lives were lost and blood was shed in the fight against the factories. Some say they were on the wrong side of history. We need to study the first aggressive rollout of technology to know which side of history we stand on today and how to move forward.